The unfortunate death of my wife, Elizabeth, had turned my life upside down. After she died, which was very sudden, I lost all creativity. That's it, I'm done. I'll never make anything ever again. And that pit in my stomach.
So my guest today is David Jacobson, who for 18 years was a staff cartoonist for the Gannett newspapers in New York. And all the time he was succeeding as a cartoonist, he was carrying around a battered suitcase of glass tools with a dream of becoming a full-time glassblower. We're going to talk today about that arc from him being a successful cartoonist to going out on his own as a glassblower later in his career.
Hey, Marcia, thank you. That was a very nice to hear introduction. Thank you for that.
I'm Marcia Heath. Welcome to Tales from the B-Side, conversations with people who turned over their life record and found something much better. So I thought I'd start with your very first exposure to glassblowing.
Yeah, that was my freshman year of college. I'm walking down the campus one spring, and they had taken the glass studio outdoors to give an outdoor demonstration. And as I'm walking by, I'm seeing these two guys running with these strands of molten clear glass. And I can still see the sparkle. And I'm going, whoa, what is that? I gotta learn how to do that. Either you love it and you're addicted to it now and you'll do everything you can to keep doing it, or it's too much. It's too hot, it's intimidating, don't like the heat, don't like the sweat. There's no middle ground. So what attracted to me and what appealed to me that very first time, I saw it back in college when the guys are outside running. First of all, it's very active. I'm a very active person. I'm always played sports. I'm very physical. Glassblowing requires a tremendous amount of movement. It's very physical. And there's a rhythm, there's a dance, there's a movement. I also did change colleges to go in and start to study glassblowing. You know, my parents weren't very excited about this at all. Pretty much the cliche, starving artist, it's great that you do this, but how are you going to make a living? And that's part of the reason why I gave up on the glass right after college. I realized I didn't really want to teach, and I didn't have the faith in myself that I would be able to make a living at that. But I always did like to draw, I always did like to doodle, and so I started off doing that. Always with the idea that I would get back to glassblowing at some point because I did love it. So I started drawing and freelancing cartoons in Minneapolis.
And that sounds to me like, wow, what a perfect career. You sit in a room, you doodle, you write funny things, and then you publish cartoons and you get fan mail, and then maybe you go around in a spiffy car.
Far from it. Far from it. To support myself, I worked in a restaurant. I call them the B job. It was the job that supported me. So I could then have the daytime to sit at the drawing board and come up with the ideas. And I slowly started to submit. And I would get an occasional acceptance. And then I got married, moved to New York. And I approached this newspaper in Westchester where I grew up. And I thought I'd get maybe, if I was lucky, I'd get a weekly cartoon with them to help feed my whole bank of freelance cartoons. They were looking for a full-time, brand new, creating a position staff cartoonist. And sure enough, I got good enough marks that they said, okay, you're in. We're going to hire you full-time. And all the pressures of a daily deadline, and they didn't care if you were sick, bad mood, stomach ache, just had a fight with my wife. We need your cartoon. And then also the anxiety of waking up at 4:30 in the morning, bolt upright, with like, oh my God, I just came up with my last idea. I'm done. So there was fun, but a tremendous amount of anxiety. And I have to say, proudly enough, and this is true, I never missed a deadline in my 18 years.
But meanwhile, you have this lurking fantasy of becoming a glassblower.
In 1994 is when I started glassblowing again part-time. My career is going well enough that I can afford to take these glassblowing lessons and practice. It's very expensive. I would work every day at the newspaper till 4 o'clock. I would take a class in Brooklyn. The class would start from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. So I get done in Westchester, jump in my car, drive down to Brooklyn, New York through rush hour, go to the studio, glassblowing for 3 hours and drive home, get home at about 11 p.m., get up in the morning again, go to the newspaper and have to create another cartoon.
Temperamentally, you had the personality to do well in both environments, both as a solitary artist, cartoonist, and as a collaborative glassblower.
What appeals to me too is it's very social. You work with someone else by design. So the social aspect also has always appealed to me because it's collaborative. Yes, it's my piece. I'm in charge. I'm giving instructions. And it's collaborative in that their job as an assistant is to be the best assistant they can be. And when the piece is finished, there is an energy in the room that right now I can feel it go up my back of excitement, of success, of we did this. Once you start, you don't stop. And after an hour and a half of success, that's pretty good. You're very excited.
It's almost like you were living in split world. You got a split screen life. And I wonder about the cost and also the benefits of having two passions going at the same time, or two careers in essence going at the same time. Do you have any thoughts on that?
2001, oof, I kind of hit a bottom. And I'm doing illustrations and I'm submitting to magazines like The New Yorker. So there's a tremendous amount of energy going out. Everything just was very depleted. And I stopped doing the cartoon, the syndicated cartoon. It wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be. I was stretched too thin. That was the price I paid. Shortly after that, my wife and I moved up here to Maine, quit the newspaper with the theory of becoming a full-time glassblower.
So if you had gone to a career advisor and said, I want to give up a very successful career in New York as a staff cartoonist, and I want to move to Maine and deplete some of my savings and buy a 1800s farmhouse with barn that needs a lot of restoration. I'm not sure how to use a screwdriver, as you told me before. That would seem to be a recipe for another downturn in your life.
Oh my God, yeah. Complete radical change is. And the reason we ended up where we did, which is it's called Montville, Maine, in mid-coast area, very rural, farm country, no town. Plus, we found a really beautiful piece of property. In reality, it had a small barn on it, 30 by 30 foot barn. And the house was built in 1814. It was gorgeous, but completely run down. But the reason we ended up there is because we could afford a house there, which we could not do in Westchester. The dream was I would convert that someday into my glassblowing studio. So as crazy as I was, there was some reason behind it. I absolutely felt more than ever in my life that I'm the stupidest man on the planet. Fish out of water, rural Maine, no good Italian food, no good takeout, no coffee, can't get the Sunday Times. How do people do it?
That's where I go back to something else you said in an earlier interview about angels. So you talk about guardian angels, angels of mercy, angels of salvation in your life. And I wonder how you define angels and what an example of an angel might be from that time when you were rebuilding yourself in Maine.
You know, not wanting to sound too woo-woo, but this stuff is very real to me and very important to me. So by angels, the people in my life who have been out of their way, generous with me in their emotional support of my career. There have been angels who have supported me financially by buying some of my work along the way, encouraging me. And in literal sense, I do believe in something greater than me. This is where people can roll their eyes all they want, but no one can prove me wrong like I can't prove you wrong. This is just something that gives me strength. The unfortunate death of my wife, Elizabeth, in 2016, that turned my life upside down. After she died, which was a very sudden, I lost all creativity, couldn't do anything. The way it works in my mind, it's all visual. I see the ideas, I see the drawings, I see the glass, I see the cartoons, I see whatever it is. And there was nothing. It really scared me. It was a blank screen. I thought, that's it, I'm done. I'll never make anything ever again. And that pit in my stomach was just so sad on top of the loss of my wife. I have no sense of time back then, right now, but this urge came back. Describe it as the call of the furnace, of the glass furnace. I got to get back in there. I got to make something to help heal me.
You referred to her as one of your angels, but in terms of the strength she lent you, and I think she saw in you potentially you didn't see in yourself.
Yeah. She was always a great supporter. There were countless times back when I was working at the newspaper and just starting on glassblowing when I wanted to quit the glass because it was too tiring, too much money, can't afford it. And she goes, stop it. Just get in the car and drive down there. And she was right. I was my happiest. I was my happiest when I was in the glass studio. During the pandemic, when my business collapsed to zero, I needed to pivot. There was no studio work anymore. Nobody was coming out for lessons, that's for sure. And my gallery's closed. So I came into Belfast and contacted a nonprofit art center and said, let me sit here and I'll donate all of my equipment if I can take a corner of your boiler room and make glass. And in exchange for rent, how about if I teach a class or two? It's grown 4 years later. And thankfully, the executive director, Kim Fleming, was all into it and just saw the possibility. And fast forward, we are the only nonprofit glassblowing studio in the state of Maine. We teach classes, we teach the high school, we teach the alternative high school, we teach war veterans glassblowing, all because the pandemic shut my studio down.
And you mentioned that at some point you said to yourself something about the starving artist myth. The idea that great artists are discovered and they have sort of a solitary genius about them and they don't have to worry about the commercial aspects. You said to yourself, that's not what makes sense. Tell me your counter myth to that one.
I've just found out that that's just not true. I mean, how great that would be if somebody discovered me, some gallery owner of a prestigious gallery heard about me and says they want to represent me and they take care of everything for me. But essentially what I learned and was told, I'm a small business owner, right? It doesn't matter how great a glassblower I may be. If I don't know how to get that product, which it is, out there into the world, then I'm going to go back to working in a restaurant. A successful business isn't always about your bottom line. First of all, you're making enough money to stay solvent. But as a small business owner, it's about fortitude. It's about the spin. It's about having a pivot. I never wanted to work for myself. Never. I always wanted to work for a company like the newspaper because I knew I'd be a horrible businessman. To keep it all in perspective, I've never driven the Maserati. I've never been super successful in terms of dollars in a bank account. However, I've learned to run a solvent business. I have zero debt, but I have enough to live, and I live well. I feel very lucky, fortunate, abundant.
And also, I would hear a theme that I hear with other people too: fear of money, fear of not having enough, of course, but also, am I deserving to be earning this money that I'm earning? And I sense a little bit of that in your story too.
Oh, absolutely. I still struggle with that. I'm still in recovering, myself to believe that I deserve or that I can charge this. It is all right.
What would you say to someone who might worry that they're going to be a sellout if they do the networking, the marketing, the business angles that you're talking about? What is your advice for them?
It's not a sellout. It's a business decision. You do what you have to do to be able to sell your work. So I sell through galleries, through online places. And that's worked for me at this stage.
Now to the poetry of glassblowing. I've seen a number of your pieces, and they almost seem like they're made by angels. The colors are so vibrant and alive and unusual. I wonder how you feel now, having made how many pieces of glass? Are you still excited to make a new piece of glass?
Oh yeah, I'm just as excited now, seriously, as I was in the very beginning. And I don't know any glassblower that doesn't feel that way. Whenever you find the right medium, and I'm sure this is the same with everybody, no matter what they use. When you find the right medium, it just makes you feel alive. Just in this past 2 months of what I'm doing now, I think is my best work ever. There are these techniques that I enjoy using the most, and it's an Italian method from the 1500s, and it's called Marini, which is making glass tiles. The end result is a very intensely colored, intensely patterned pieces of glass. The patterns are just wild. I was going very small and trying to be delicate and precious with the pieces last year, but this year I decided to go much larger, and I'm just very excited to see where this is going to take me.
One of the things you said to me in an earlier interview was that who am I to say no to a great opportunity? And I think that's what I'm hearing here too, that you've had opportunities that you were fearful of pursuing, but then you said, who am I to say no to this?
Yes. And that was given to me by somebody else. Who am I to say no to these talents that I have, these abilities that I have, because I'm scared? Saying no because I fear that it's not going to work out and I'm going to look foolish. It's self-centeredness that is not my friend. I'm going to be 74 in June, and I still feel like the best is yet to come. I love saying that. I say that often. Never thought that would be. Again, it just is amazing to me. I'm very grateful. I feel very lucky. I've got a lot of support from my loved ones, people that love me, my partner, my friends. But I'm glad that the Studio Waterfall Arts is the crowning achievement in my book, just to see how it grows and how it's just affecting the community and people coming in. It's really, really wonderful.